Karthi, unmute your camera. Karthi, unmute your camera, both audio and video.
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, Karthi.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, so we'll move on to the session. A very good evening, warm welcome to you all. Thanks for joining us today for today's webinar. On behalf of Jia Group of Institutions, we welcome you all to the webinar on why engineers make great designers. Today we will have a well-experienced UX designer with us, Mr. P. Karthikeyan, Senior Product Designer in Intuiting. Karthik, we extend a warm welcome to you. Today webinar focuses on the user experiences, how easy the user can interact with any system, application or services. So the user experience is a person's emotions and attitudes about using a particular product, system or service. It includes the practical, experiential, affective, meaningful and valuable aspect of human-computer interaction and product ownership. Additionally, it includes a person's perceptions of system aspects such as utility, ease of use, and efficiency. User experience may be subjective in nature to the degree that it is about individual perception and thought with respect to a product or a system. User experience varies dynamically, constantly modifying over time due to changing usage circumstances. Simplified user experience is about how a user interacts with and experiences a product. We are going to hear a lot about user experiences from Karthikeyan. So Karthikeyan is going to share a lot about his experiences as a product designer to you all. So before getting into the session, so it's a regular note to all participants, especially those who have joined today. At the end of the session, we will provide you feedback form. So I request every participant to submit the feedback form through which the e-certificate is generated. And I request everyone to type your name in the capital letter and provide a valid email ID. And you will receive the e-certificate in maximum of 2 days. And the technology used here is purely rely on the strength of the local bandwidth. If you have any audio video issues, please check your devices and the network. Otherwise, you can click reconnect button on the screen. On top of the screen, you can find the reconnect button in the red color labeled reconnect. Just you can click on that so that you will connect with us without any issues. If there is any technical glitch in our side, we will back maximum of 30 seconds. So do not leave the room or close the window or close the browser. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box. So we will take all your questions at the end. So with this note, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Mr. Karthikeyan. Karthikeyan is experienced user experience designer with a demonstrated history of working in the design industry, having more than 15 plus years of experience in design industry. He has skilled in wireframing, project estimation, mobile applications, web design, and storyboarding. Having strong arts and design professional with a master degree in design, focused in interaction design from IIT Bombay. Prior to that, he has completed his Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Science and Engineering from Anna University. He started his career in TCS as an assistant system engineer in 2005. Then he worked through Interactive as a game designer, HashQ as a senior designer, Tracto as a product designer, FN Studio as UX lead and principal UX designer. Currently, he is in Intuiting Bangalore as a senior product designer. With this brief introduction, we will move on to the session. I'm very glad to welcome Mr. P. Karthikeyan to present. Over to you, Karthik.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's been a great honor for myself to connect back again to the alumni, to the group. I think last time we connected was 10 years back. The batch was 2009, and it's been 10 years since then. So I'll quickly get to the presentation. So this is mostly about my journey from being an engineer to a designer, and I try to keep it as personal journey as much as possible to ensure we are able to relate to each other. So let me share my screen now. Yeah. So yeah, this is me, and as you can see that I am currently in Pondicherry. To be honest, locked up in Pondicherry for the past 3 months, and this also happens to be my favorite city. My wife is from Pondicherry, and the last time I came to meet people was in 2009. However, in between, when I was to travel across our Jaya College, I used to come and visit the campus. So this was in 2017 when it was a Sunday, I guess. Like no one was there, but still enjoyed uh, uh, like strolling across the campus, and it was very nostalgic. I tried to search this picture and like found this picture somehow. Uh, so this is my resume or summary of my career. I started off as an engineer. I did my computer science engineering from Jaya College, and I worked with TCS for 3.5 years. And after that, I worked as a game designer for a quite a considerable amount of time, and before moving on to UX design. So I'll take you through this. Like this is just a summary of it, but there's a lot more in each of these experiences. A lot of transformation that has happened within myself. I think that's the more crux of it. Um, Even before engineering, like I had some semi-formal education in art as well, because I was interested in sketching and painting, and I had done correspondence courses in drawing and animation from Pentasoft Technologies. Pentasoft was not correspondence; it was a in person. And while working with TCS, I was working with projects like USAA, which is a US Army's insurance company called United Service Automobile Association. And there was an innovation lab called Web2 Labs, which is when I visited Jaya College and gave a talk last time. And while working with Dhruva, I worked with Spill Games, which is a Netherlands based game company, and made a couple of games with them. Um, and uh, and one of the transformative experience was working with the F1 Studios, where I had a chance to work with so many different clients, starting from different domains: marketing, healthcare, e-commerce, and emergency, a lot of and also sales as well. The other companies were more or less the product companies. So these were the three service-based companies which I worked with. Not only this, I also had some freelance uh, stints, and some of my friends who were starting their own company, I helped them in their design. Some of their in UX design, some of them were in game design, and that really helped me a lot. Because a lot of unofficial work helps us to learn a lot. So, and these are the places I've been to. I was born in Jammu, and although I am from a village called Alakudi, my parents are from Alakudi, and I was born in Jammu because my dad was in army. And my schooling was in Delhi, Pune, and Calcutta. And there have been like so many different places, like probably because of that's how it has been, and or love traveling. And international travel, I have not done much. It's only within Asia. So this year I was planning to go to US as part of my work. But yeah, the COVID happened, and we have to stop. And so going a little deeper, like uh, I used to write a diary. Uh, like I'll connect it to the in the end, like how it all makes sense here. So this was in '96 probably, when I was in 8th standard. I used to write a diary regularly and also sketch a lot. So it looks like, it was a peek into my own self. It looks like I used to love to play cricket, and had some sketching training as well, and also pretty studious enough to study on a weekend. So that was interesting, a little unknown side of me. And I grew up in a middle class family where losing 10 rupees note was a very big deal. So, and I had a very bad day, that I think 31 May. And I, from as a kid, I also had animal friends, and I enjoyed little things in life. I used to read books. So these were some hobbies. And I managed to write some diary intermittently even later. This was during the college time, engineering. uh, I think it was right at the end of our engineering course, Jaya College. I think some of my Jaya College friends were going in bike, and we caught up by police. We were attending some classmates' marriage function. Yeah, this is a very memorable day. I got the thesis offer letter. This was campus on campus. I got it, and it was I was very happy about it. So my as you can see that, like, I had a lot of drawing and sketching uh, all throughout my life, but it was not just about sketching. It was also painting, and it was not just the paper and pencil and crayons or watercolor. It was also oil colors and wall colors as well. So these were some of the rooms I stayed in. So one is actually the room where I stayed in IIT Bombay, and the other one is my room in Chennai. So yeah, and these rooms keeps changing. Like, I used to paint almost like every 6 months. I used to change the rooms, how it looked like. And yeah, this page was probably the most important page in my life. This was when I got a job at TCS already, and I was also had a offer at Pentasoft, Pentamedia, and I had a I was at a crossroads, like whether to go into animation or into proper computer science as an engineer. And I had this dilemma always, like, what should I do? And it's not that I did not like engineering. It's not that I was so good at animation. I just like both of them. So I always had this dilemma. I was even thinking that the confusion in my mind to make a choice in my career is because I am average in both, or slightly above average in both. So that was my confusion. Like, had I been bad in something, like good in something else, it would have been an easier choice. So I always believe that, like, but one thing was much more taking precedence over the other one was my creative side presented my passion. I had a passion for storytelling, graphics, and art in general. I didn't understand design that time, and probably I had a formal training in engineering. And but this is the thing I understood that time. Like, I'm more passionate about arts, and then let me follow my passion. However, there was a kind of a pressure to go ahead as a regular path. I and even the offer was quite good, so I took up the job at TCS and worked there for 4.5 years, and had pretty much fun here. Um, and so this was with USAA, and while working here, I got a chance to interact with our CTO of TCS, Krish Ashok, who was very much into Web 2.0. That time it was Web 2.0, and it was a quite a creative team there. And so I got a chance to work with that team, and as a UI developer. And this is when I saw that, like, it's a team is mix of designers and developers. And the developers were doing design and development, and the designers were only doing design. So this was very new to me. And, like, for me, all the time I thought was, building anything requires coding in digital spaces. But it's not the case. It's design is like can be more specialized. It need not be always programming and coding. So that's when the transition started happening. I started seeing design as a proper career option, and I realized that there are exams, competitive exams for it, which test you for your art skills, more importantly, creative skills. And yeah, so I took a sabbatical and traveled across the country, and probably I would have sketched for more than 16 hours in a day. There have been days when I've sketched more than 16 hours in a day, and met many people. I try to continue that diary writing. Even then, you can see that quality of sketching has come down a little bit, probably because I was traveling a lot this time, and I was mostly always in a hurry. So I and yeah, and then I wrote an exam called Seed, and it is a Seed exam is conducted by IIT Bombay, and with that, it's almost like GATE. So with that score, you can actually attend different IIT campuses. So I got through this, and then I was All India 27th rank, and that was quite a happy moment for me. And after that, I chose over. So there, I got admissions in IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi, and IIT Bombay, and I chose Bombay over others because of the sheer variety of courses that they provided. And IDC is Industrial Design Center, which is a department within IIT Bombay. So and this was quite again a life-changing experience here, and people here were very fun, and people were coming from different backgrounds. Some were coming from engineering, like me, and many were also from arts background. Some were self-made designers who wanted to get a degree in design. Some even came from the commerce background, who did commerce, but they had a thing for design. They came in, and many people also came from architect background. So what really happened here was, I was able to see different different people with different types of mindsets. So I represented a kind of an engineering mindset, where I came from an experience, also with an experience working in the engineering industry here. So, and we had a lot of difference in opinion, and eventually we started understanding each other, and we started seeing each other's point of view. And we of course we were very good friends, and like some of them were very special friends for us. And we had a lot of fun. And the course which I did was interaction design. Although it was interaction design, the level of freedom which that was given to us was, I would say, mm, it was like too pampering. In fact, I chose animation subjects over, or photography subjects over interaction subjects as electives. So I chose a lot of different subjects so that I get a lot of more exposure to different disciplines. And this was one of the art classes where we were shown one of the very popular paintings by Salvador Dali. So I think I was banned from this class after a while, because I was asking for formula for aesthetics, formula for absurdism. So in fact, somebody was saying that this is an engineering mindset creeping into IDC. And of course, I did not like that fact. I did not like that comment. But it turned out that it was very important for me to unlearn. So all the things which I learned in engineering, it's not that it was a waste. At that time, at that point of time, I thought like I wasted a lot part of my career as an engineer. But the unlearning was a very important requirement here. So to unlearn things what you have learned. So the very mindset to trying to understand find a formula for anything that is creative. So that was kind of an engineer in me that was trying to find an answer to everything in design. So yeah, so then I took photography as part of unlearning. This is not something which I have done earlier. I took a professional photograph, and again traveled as part of different user studies which we used to do. So I was doing a lot more photography than actually the studying part. So I traveled across Mumbai. I stayed in Dharavi for 3 days and saw different things there, which may not be within the scope of this presentation, but explored a lot in photography. Unless one day my photography professor said to stop everything. He said like, your photographs don't have any storytelling, so you don't. I mean, like, you don't need to continue on this. You can try something else. So this again like was a kind of a blocker for me to move further. And uh, yeah, and again, so professors are very chilled out, and we used to make memes on different professors, and he used to be very sporty as well. Um, so this is actually the same professor who's asking to like the movie Dancer in the Dark. So it was his favorite movie, and none of us liked that movie. So that's just fun part. So then I met a person called Chris Crawford. He's one of the prominent game designers in the 1980s. So he came to IDC once to give a talk on game design, and I met him. It was quite an eye-opening thing, because what I found here was this was the right field or right culmination of engineering and design together, right? I found it to be the perfect fit for me, where I could explore my artistic side as well as uh, it demanded engineering at a very high skilled engineering as well. So I worked with him for a month or two for his game, which was an RTS strategy kind of game, something like Farmville. So I was making some art assets for him. I did not work out further, but still he was the inspiration for me to go further into games and really work on taking games as my career. So I that was a time when I came across a technology called brain computer interface, BCI. So this is a company called Neurosky, which makes these headsets, um, so which takes brainwave signals brainwave signals from. So it's basically commercially available EEG devices. So there are many of them, and I somehow I managed with my stipend money. I was able to buy a couple of them and also test them, and eventually I was able to make my own prototype, where one could take the input from the uh, brain and use that as an input to any application. So there could be any application here. So because I was interested in games, I wanted to bring in the elements like willpower and calmness, focus, and this could also be used as a training for emotional intelligence. So that was the direction which I was exploring, and I think it was a very good experience working with one of my juniors as well. So who was also interested in the same area, and here again, in IDC there are different schools of thoughts here. Like one was uh, um, uh, like we have theoretical physics, we have theoretical design. Like everything is only theoretical, and we may not make it, right? So but there was other set of designers who were against the idea of anything which you can't make it, let's not even imagine. So that was the different opinion there. So I was, because I had an engineering background, there was a lot of building which I did. So in design there was a lot of people used to make a lot of concepts, but I used to make concepts and then also make prototypes and take it further. So that was the thing which I found as a greatest strength in me, that like any concepts you're coming up with, you find a way to build it. So I think that was coming in from an engineering mindset which I was coming from. And I was making a prototype for this game which was related to the human emotions, and I could share the thesis which I worked on it. However, I was not able to build it, complete it rather. So it was a prototype, and any product which is actually being it has to cross the prototype stage and then it has to reach to the masses. So that's where I was not able to take it further and take projects to completion. It was a prototype stage and it was very well received. And unfortunately my so I this was my workstation. So in this was my class, and where this part of the class was my area where I was working on this game design like day and night. And unfortunately I was not able to meet certain standards which were required for passing out from ITC there. So and this again, my professor, who was my guide, he asked me to continue and further for one more year. And honestly, I really enjoyed staying in ITC, and that's why I continued staying there and then studied for one more year. So it was just completing the project. There were no classes for me. So during that time, I also took time to start my own company within the campus, and I was also taking my second sabbatical because this project was not going anywhere. So it's not getting to completion. So I met some. I traveled to Arunachal Pradesh and stayed there in a Pake Tiger Reserve, where we were supposed to do some user interviews and talk to people and to understand their lifestyles, how they live, and what is the meaning of poaching, what is the meaning of hunting. There are a lot of things that which may not be again the scope in this project, in this presentation. So this was a transformational experience because all the while it was only me coming up with a concept and building stuff, right? So I find this experience very useful. It eventually helped me later in my career. I met a lot of people here, people from different culture, people from different again like uh, um, uh, each culture had a story, and that story had a purpose. So and this was quite a helpful experience for me to understand people, to get certain things done through people. That was one thing. And when I came back, I again, so as part of my startup, I was able to roll out some of the quick games which were more casual in nature. So this was Polka Dots, which I released it. uh, so this was while I was in IIT, but I had my own company there, and then I was releasing these small games. This was Polka Dots, and I took some feedback, and we used to do a lot of brainstorming within our friends and also from the users. And so this was the feedback was like, no, this game did not have any story. So the thing about storytelling. So storytelling is something which I've been doing for a long time, but still I've met a lot of new things there, which was quite challenging. And then I made another casual game with a nice story to it, and we were able to make the prototype and also release it also. And one of the games which I worked on got so I again came back to the same technology, brain computer interface, but it was not the same game as I earlier made. So this was Agori versus Ravan versus Agori. So this got selected for the Singapore Game Conference, and we also sent it for one of the finalists for the Imagine XP uh, game competitions there. So there's a video, we can see it later, but coming back. So then this was another game which was called Nano SWAT, which I worked with Dhruva Interactive, and this was the first game where I was not working as an engineer. So all this time I was actually was the concept developer, designer, and also an engineer who built it. But going forward with this, where I was officially a game designer, and I was not, there was a separate development team for it. So this helped me to see that like I could focus lot in design, but like having to let go of engineering thing, it is going to only help me. So I was quite happy about it. But at the same time, coming from an engineering background, it helped me to connect with the engineers when it comes to some bug fixing. A lot of times, engineers and designers don't understand each other. So, because me coming from two different worlds, I was able to understand the engineer's point of view and was able to design better. Um, However, the biggest challenge which really took me was while working for Gummy Pop. So the CEO with whom we worked with, the stakes were very high. So the CEO who worked with was a very number driven person. He was a um, like he would believe anything what data says. Like, yeah, there was no storytelling, no concept which he interested him. And so our investors, so the kid who is playing here was one of our investors kid. So the I'm like, a lot of it depended on if the kid liked the game or not. Because when we were testing it, like, the kid was hardly interested, was not even going beyond 3 levels or 4 levels. And it was really so bad that the game as a concept was great, but the interests were not, people are not going beyond 5 or 6 levels. And we almost spent 6 months in it. We were really struggling to make this game really better. So initially we were trying to make it as good graphics as possible, as good story as possible, as good tutorials as possible, but still people did not enjoy the game or did not understand the game. So it was very important for us to make people play this game, because this is going to be a more than 3000 level game. And if people are not going to play beyond 10 levels, forget about the entire investment that has happened on this game. So it was we did a lot of study here. Again, we went on the streets and tested with people and asked feedback. And one thing which I really understood here, what I really saw here was, like, beyond, like, what really took me from engineering to design was my passion for graphics and storytelling or visual communication, right? But there were some more things beyond it, like, which eventually I found that it was from engineering only. So I thought, like, I have finally become a designer. I'm no longer an engineer. But again, I have to come back to engineering again. So because if you see, uh, it was very interesting to see that myself on the other side of the table. So this is a very, very famous cartoon where how designers feel while working with engineers. Although I have come from an engineering background, but this was the moment where I was surrounded by more than 60 engineers, and I was the only designer for this team. And it can be really very challenging. And yeah, while we have to solve the problem. So the first book, I read it for solving that problem, Don't Make Me Think. And the second was about how to manage a team of uh, different roles. Like, you are the only designer. It's a book called User Experience Team of One. And the third one was actually how you're going to articulate your design decisions. A lot of times design decisions are not really fully understood, and it's very important to articulate these designs very well. So I was managing a lot of things and learning a lot of things at this time. A little deep dive into this problem, how we solved it, was this was the core gameplay of the Gummy Pop. The game, we called it as Gummy Pop. So it was meant to be a casual game, a game which people will play while waiting at the bus stop or when they are bored, and people don't want to apply too much brains to it. At the same time, the gameplay should be deep and complex or advanced enough so that it can scale up to 3000 or 4000 levels. So that was the idea, and it has to look like a Candy Crush. It has to be colorful. So this is the gameplay. I'll just explain it. So there's a big bubble. If you click on it, it breaks into 4 different pieces, and those, each of these pieces, and if goes and touches the other colored bubble, they transition to the next color. So it's like the blue, the growth. The blue becomes green, and green becomes yellow, and yellow becomes red, and then red again. If it is hit or tapped, it breaks into another 4. So it is a very complex game for a casual game genre, and the challenge was to ensure that people still understand it without knowing they understood it. I mean, these are uh, very thin lines which we have to really understand. Um, so the first challenge here was people were so this is the gameplay, right? And if you click on it, I mean, if you see, we don't understand anything what happens here. And honestly, all of us understood in the team, the engineers, the data scientists, and we, because we all built this game from scratch, and we understood it so well. But for someone who is totally new, they may not understand it at all. And the it was also confusing because like a lot of people were swiping in rather than tapping. This was supposed to be tapped. We were not able to convey, and even we, when we made tutorials explicitly saying that we need to tap it, nobody really tapped it. And of course data help us to understand it better. So this was an experiment which we did. So when we kept multiple red dots together, you can see that only 3% of the users tapped it. We don't know why, even though when we are explicitly telling, like you say tap to pop, even when you say that, give the tutorials, people did not tap it. And when we made so more space for it, like the number seems to be increasing, and that was a considerable increase, right? And when we added the other colors, this was a little more complexity. We wanted to ensure that people understand the full game. People still seem to be did not getting it. So slowly we removed a couple of things which were unnecessarily taking the attention. And the end, we came up with only just one bubble. So in fact, this is we with the what you see in the end, right, extreme right side. That's also not the final version of the first level. So we spaced it out, and then we ensured that we were able to achieve the numbers which were targeted. And this was quite interesting because this was a level design screenshot. I don't know how it came here, but so this was, so the reason I am putting it here is because as a designer, you might be faced with the challenge of working with numbers all the time. I mean, it's not that it's a very creative field and you can do whatever you want. No, it's not, because there are, the stakes are very high and you have to chase a certain number. So we were actually chasing at level 10. 65% people should reach. Whoever starts at level 1 should reach the 65. It's a very difficult to achieve, and we were able to achieve it within a week after applying these experiments here. And I think I take this as a biggest trophy in my career, because people on the app store were comparing it with Candy Crush, and some even were saying that they're going to delete Candy Crush and they're going to play this is a much better game. And people were tearing through the content. Like people were finishing like 1,000 levels within days. So and we caught up in a content treadmill. We have to create more and more levels. So eventually we were able to make more than 2,000 levels till I was there. But after that, there was other team who started working on it. So this is one thing which I learned, that like so so coming to this thing, like what was that worked for us here. So here what we see here is that, like, people are swiping instead of tapping, because there is a human mind. When they see similar things, they try to match with each other. And when they see multiple red color things, red dots here, and they are very similar and they are close to each other, they try to match them. And that's why all these match 3 games are there. This was not a match 3 game. So so this was Gestalt principles. Maybe not the right time to discuss all the Gestalt principles here, but this was the time when I discovered that there are UX principles like at play, and it's like a science. And there is a very strong logic to each and everything which we do, right? So there is a science of, that's the science of creativity. So uh, so I was very now very inclined towards like understanding all the design principles. This was way after my IDC time. So this was like while I was at the working on my third or fourth game. Design principles, I suddenly was very interested. I was reading about it and was seeing how things work, design, and again, this was very helpful. So this was a Archimedes moment for me. Like, give me, like Archimedes once said that, like, give me a lever to stand. One minute. A place to stand, I will move the earth. So, in fact, with design principles, if you are very strong in your fundamentals, you will be able to achieve anything. So that was the moment for me. Um, so this is something, again, a very common example that is given in design. Um, Whenever we see this door, push or pull, I'm sure you would have experienced whether to pull. It must be written push, but you still pull it, and it's not your mistake that you're not reading it. So nobody reads it, right? So, and it's about it's called affordance in design, where the design of uh, the interaction itself should be so intuitive enough that you don't have to think anything. So that's what I learned it in the book, Don't Make Me Think. So it's a very nice book, you should read it. And that's the base, that's a fundamental of all things design. Don't Make Me Think is one of the books, and there are a few others. So what would be the better design is that, in fact, there is sometimes no design is also design, right? So the designing a handle is not an answer here. Sorry. So this one. So if you see, if you keep a handle on the one side, that will be pull, and if you keep no handle on the other side, that's push. And so intuitive. And if you see some of the doors, like people don't make mistakes in such doors here. This is called an affordance door. It's also called the Norman door, Don Norman door as well. So I want to give one more case study where it applies design principle in such a way, and then it can solve a problem without having to do anything, without having to build anything, right? So this is a urinal, and one of the problems, especially male urinal, where one of the problems here is that. Uh, After you do your work here, and there are some droplets which you find on your shoes, and that's called spillage, right? And this is a problem. This needs to be solved. People try to put work on the design of the commode here, or they put some mesh sort of thing which takes the load. However, one company they tried, and they haven't patented this. They have put a sticker of a fly on certain side of the urinal. So it tries to attack the psychology of the person. When you see a fly here, you'll try to make the fly go into that drain, right? And also there's a male psychology of shooting things and throwing things. This has been very ingrained in us, and it this reduced the spillage by 80 percentage, and it's been patented by this company, and they're making a lot of money in this. And if you see some of the very good airports, and you will also find such urinals there. So this was one. Sometimes no design is good design. So that's something which I. So this was all learning which has happened over a period of time for me, and on the job. So and these things actually helped me to add an empty space here. So all that was required here was an empty space. So nothing, just the red dot. That was the answer. And yeah, so that was the thing which we found here. And the other thing which I find, so yeah, that's the point, right? So applying logic. The engineers are very logical. Their mind is very logically wired. So they try to find logic in everything. So it's not that like I was coming back to engineering again now in some ways. So although I moved away from engineering, and then now I was finding that like design principles at play is very important, plays an important role in design, making it work. The next thing was about scaling things. So like we have to build more than 2000 levels. and one has to find frameworks for it. So there are design frameworks as well for game design. There are loops and arcs, many of them, and this is for the UX. It's called a design system. So atomic design principle has been applied here. So if you see any UI, it's not just like because how it looks like, right? So there is a very sophisticated library that is built. Every design team strives to build it. So it's called atomic design principle, where you try to break down into as atom parts as possible. On the extreme left side, you see atoms here. Like these are like atoms. It cannot be broken down into further, and then you combine them and then make molecules, and then you further combine them, you make organisms. You can have mix and match of them and then make as different objects possible. They could be different permutation combinations of it. Some of them could be valid, some of them may not be so. And I have been able to build only 3 level deep atomic design systems. So this one here represents the 5 level deep, till the level of pages. You can create template pages also, and I have not been able to create it so far, or did not get a chance to work on it, but I have been able to make only till organisms uh, here. So next thing is, so that is about the principle and scale. So next thing which I discovered was like what engineers bring into design here is process. So process is a very important step in design, because there might be a hunch, there might be a designers always fall into this trap of I had a hunch, or like this is their just gut feeling. That usually called as design gut. And process is like you keep everything aside and then ensure that you follow a certain process, and you are okay to say no to your gut feeling as well. So maybe this is not directly related to it, but I'm trying to what I've tried here is that I've tried to put some examples in my career, how I was able to reduce a lot of work. So I don't know if you guys have worked on it, studied it. Like it's called finite state machine, which we studied in computer science, where you create state diagrams. So and this is probably I have not seen it anywhere, but I always saw that like you can reduce the number of iterations. So design is always about making as many wireframes as possible and getting feedback, and it can go to 11 or 12 or 13 iterations, and it can be very painful, and that's where designers find it very difficult to do that many iterations. So in my career, what I have found here is that like if you are able to fix the fundamentals very clearly, like if you're able to get the finite state machine or flow diagrams right, you can finish any design into at the max 3 iterations. It need not go beyond 3. Anything which goes beyond 3 is actually you have not done the enough homework there. So I use a lot of finite state machine, contrary to many believing that finite state machine is more of an engineering thing. So what I really found exciting or interesting is that I'm working with a lot of engineers, and they find it very they find it the conversations to be very smoother and a lot happier, I would say, because they can connect with me a lot better when I talk their language. So that's something which I always took from engineering. And this is kind the process which I follow. There are many processes for design, but the what I really liked about this process is that one has to know are you designing the right thing. It's called the double diamond approach. The first diamond represents the to find out whether you are designing the right thing. Do you even have to design for it? The second thing comes whether how you're going to design it. So you can find a lot of material on double diamond process, but it's one of the very well tested process, I would say. And I'll show some of the images with like just to show you how my day-to-day life looks like, right? So so this was when I was working in F1 Studios, where we used to go to the client's location and then understand their requirements, and we used to call it as a war rooms. And I don't have many pictures here, but there are very interesting pictures where people used to fight. And I mean, like, fight as in, like, it's really at a conceptual level, and it's to be really difference in opinion, clashing with each other. And those are very important meetings, right? And then we come back, and then we on the left side, what you see is called card sorting. And on the right side, I call it as a, like, floor card sorting. So this is a process which we were trying to invent at F1 Studios, my last company where I was working. So so a lot of these requirements can be very random. Like, it's the whole thing about design here is that the good designer is able to bring a lot more structure. So structure to the randomness of the requirements here. So I think what really, like, as an engineer turned designer, this is the very difficult step where many designers find it difficult transitioning to. uh, People even call it as a, in Hindi they call it mastak se pustak. So mastak is like what is in their mind, and if you have to bring it to reality, it's the most difficult thing. From requirement to the UI, it's a very difficult thing to do. And for that, you need to have a certain structure. And I use a lot of terms used in engineering, like data structures, and FSMs. And I use a lot of engineering, in fact, in my design processes. And yeah, and these are some things like empathy map, which I learned in design, that how one has to understand a user without having to be too attached to the user. That's very, with the right level of attachment or detachment, whatever you want to call it as. So you can check about it, like what is empathy maps. But these are very interesting exercises you will see. So this is where some of my experiences of traveling and meeting people from different culture really helped me. Because one, you may never be able to meet that person. You may be having access to that person only for an hour or so, but still, if you can see through their eyes and then see their life, how it is, like, where they are facing a problem. Sometimes the problem might not even be known by the user themselves. Like, you have to investigate, see through it, like, and that's why, like, it's very important as a designer to understand. So this doesn't come from engineering, I would say. The structure, process, design principles all come from engineering. But understanding the people, and there's a certain methodical approach to it, to understand the people, that is a very specific to design, I as far as I have found. And then, yeah, this is the most commonly, most of you must be aware of what is wireframing. We're coming up with, like, rough mocks. So many of us, we still think that design starts here. In fact, a design starts long before, and this is when the design starts to take shape. So, and wireframing, and then taking feedback from on the wireframing from the stakeholders, and yeah, and then going for visual design. So this is like more pixel perfect mocks. So I want to focus on this slide a little bit here. So you must have seen a lot of job opportunities like UX and UI, and there's a lot of gray areas in this. Very few people understand what is UX and what is UI. So UX is still more like a lot of research, understanding the user, and creating, defining a certain structure to it. And then UI is more on the visual side, like layouts and visual design. So I have seen a lot of people in, designers coming from art background, they tend to be good visual designers, and on the UI, they tend to be good UI designers. So since I am coming from an engineering background, I make a very good UX designer. But yeah, I have also extended towards UI as well. So I do most of it except for branding. I don't do branding, but rest all the work I've been able to learn and then do it very well over the years. This is something which I have been building. This is called design practice, and it's more like I've seen that there are layers to design. Like, uh, the more deeper you go, it's more strategic. So a lot of us, for a big lot of people, design means only visual design. That's what it is. And little more educated audience might understand it as interaction design and visual design. So I started my career as an interaction designer, but then eventually went deeper, and I've been working at the strategy level. Uh, and uh, of course, visual design was never my strength, but I also made sure that visual design is also something which is one of my areas. So I work across these these five layers, and again, there's nothing good or bad about these things. There'll be some designers who are very good at information design, and they need not be good visual designers. So now you can start seeing that like design is now expanding into different layers here, and you can decide, like you can find out in your journey, you can find out what kind of designer you want to be, right? And engineers make very good information and interaction designers. And if you are coming from an MBA background, you might be very good at the design strategy level. If you're coming from art background, you are very good at the visual design level. So I still consider myself as interaction and information design, but I also work at the strategy level and visual design level. But my forte is interaction and information design because I come from engineering. So that's why design is a multidisciplinary field where everyone is contributing something to it, right? So you might be joining as a designer to a team, and companies tend to take designers coming from different background. They ensure that their UG course is in engineering, and if they taken one designer who is coming from engineering background, they take the other designer coming from an art background. So it's so important what you've done in your UG as well. So that's what I have found. Yeah, there's one case study. I might take it after the questions, if it makes sense. Yeah, so there are 3 P's in design which I discovered. Like, passion helped me to move away from engineering to design, but later I found that principles and process are also important part of design, which actually are coming from engineering only. I see a lot of parallels in engineering as well, but there are things beyond that, like practice, which I just shared, and then people, which I these two things I do not believe that this comes from engineering, but I have to learn over a period of time to make myself a full-fledged designer. And yeah, so always love this image. Taken it in K755 image camera long back. So always the clouds and the sky is like very far away, but like it's about the perspective. uh, like if you are able to see things which are very far away in a different perspective, it is always achievable. So I have some other goals now in my career now, which might be still very far away from where I am today. But I mean, that's how I take things up in my life. So yeah, so I want to quickly, before sharing the questions, I want to take you through a video which shows you a little bit about the life of a designer. I'll just play this. Are we there? Yeah.
Art director, creative leader.
So guys, tell me if you are able to see this video clearly or not. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Dear astronaut, director, creative leader, idea astronaut. The classification of UX designers is constantly evolving. This example might seem like a new and trendy breed, but this is in fact an old school UX designer. Notice how the wallpaper on his Macintosh says Comic Sans, but the artwork itself is not composed of that particular font. This is considered funny by his peers. This specimen has unfortunately fallen into a state commonly known as pixel paranoia. as he is contemplating whether this button should be there, here, or there. This kind of aesthetic compulsory behavior separates him from the UX architect. This peculiar being spends most of his time reading reports, which enables him to answer any question with a reference to a theoretical study. An unfortunate side effect of this obsession is the lack of certain other skill sets. A crucial moment in the lifespan of the UX designer is the usability test. This is where all the hard work is rendered useless in a matter of seconds. One wrong move from the user, and it's back to the drawing board. Disaster has struck. This designer will have to face a demoralizing process of coming up with a better solution. Devastating. If you spot a UX designer interacting with common human beings, it is likely you are witnessing a ritual known as a workshop. The workshop consists of a small separated pack, writing as much as possible on sticky pieces of paper. This is often followed by the pack decorating the walls of their current habitat with these vibrant colours. Why they display this sort of behavior, no one knows. These rituals often include awkwardly choreographed exercises assumed to enhance creativity amongst the tiny band. The result is a quite extraordinary display of human behavior. Only time will tell how many viable ideas, or maybe yet another creative job title, will come out of this app.
So that was it. You can see the last slide, which image which you saw, that the developers are looking at the designers. I have come from that side to this side, so I understand both the worlds.
Karthik,
Yeah.
thank you, Karthik. I will have get questions. We'll go ahead and take some questions now.
Yeah, sure.
The first question: how design process differ from software development process?
Okay. So software development processes, as I have seen it, like I don't know how it is today, but as I've seen it, like it used to be waterfalls, then it used to be spiral, and there used to be like some Scrum methodologies were also applied to understand the process requirements, right? So in design, it is more like it's called discovery. So I'll take you, maybe I'll take you through this. I'll take you through this thing, this itself. I think some is playing, is it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So just 1 minute. I'll play a. So it's called. Hold on. I don't know if I have it here. So it need not be as defined as the software development process. It is more like understanding the user requirements, and sometimes it also includes the engineers also. And I'm trying to find that slide. I'm sorry, I'm taking some time. So yeah, this is what I follow mostly. So usually we get the requirements from the product team or sometimes the engineering team. That's called the brief, and then we cluster the topics. But parallelly, you can see that we start doing a primary research. We're talking to the users. We're talking to the users here. So this is the. I think there's some sound is coming.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so yeah. So you can see here that the initial phase is more like people give us the requirements and we understand it. We don't take the requirements as it is, and we always the designers always design process. It always have to see it with a skeptical eye. Okay, this is what the requirement that is being given to us. Sometimes it may not be the right requirement. So for that, do a parallel secondary research, and there is a primary research. As you can see that it is a diverging. In fact, a lot of times designers are accused of diverging from the topic, but that's the process. That's a part of the process where intentionally going away from the topic and then seeing things where it can extend to, and then you start seeing insights. Then a lot of insights which may never be known before. Sometimes we help the to come with the requirements. So if you to answer your question, the design process starts way before we do the wireframes. It starts with the requirement phase itself, where we help the stakeholders themselves to understand their own requirements properly. So then it insights, then themes, then opportunity areas. So these are some certain rituals which is usually done. HMW is called how may we solve it, and then eventually the sketching starts, ideation, evaluation, and then we taking feedback, and then it's an iterative process. So the one which you see here on the right side is actually what most of the people think that this is design, but the real design starts here, where you are working along with the stakeholders and the users to understand them to solve their problem. So I hope I answered the question.
Yes, yes, yes. Karthik, there is a question. To include too many interactions on a single page, will it be a good user interaction design?
Okay, it depends on from whom the answer is coming from and what context we are working with, right?
Okay.
I would say no. Obviously, the human attention span is coming down and coming down. In fact, in 2013, human attention span was I think 12 seconds, and the goldfish attention span was 9 seconds. Last year, 2019, there was a report that said that average human attention span has come to 8 seconds. So our attention spans are going low. So more and more interaction is going to be difficult. But there is a contradictory school of thought which says that more interactions, more better. I think that's more coming from the kind of designers who are coming from the Snapchat and the TikTok generation, I would say. I don't relate myself to the TikTok or the Snapchat generation. I was not able to use Snapchat first time when I used it. So there were so many interactions there. In fact, now there is a new trend also. Anyone who is releasing a product, they are asking for suggestions from the users for the interaction. Like it's like very flexible. Like wherever you click it, like it takes the user's intention and then based on that define it. So I do not have a clear answer for it. In fact, I would always say a lesser interaction is better. But the new breed of designers whom I have worked with, especially this guy on the the black shirt, right? He comes from the Snapchat and the TikTok generation, and his ideas were totally different from mine. And we used to find it very constructive discussions. So he used to vouch for more interactions within the same screen. So that was.
So another question. So in software development, there are different the CMM levels for process improvement. Is there any kind of level for UX?
Yeah, I think it is borrowed from software maturity models only. It's called UX maturity model, and there are I think some call it 4 levels, some call it 5 levels, and it's usually maturity is given for the organizations. So to answer your question, yes. Do you want me to go a little detail into that, or
You don't no need, no, just
okay. You can check it out, UX maturity models,
oh,
and it is helpful to pick up the right company as your first design job. So the if you are joining as a UX maturity model level 3, there's a lot of scope for learning. If you're joining level 5, you will be just one small designer. You might not be understanding the entire process. So I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Can you stop your screen share?
Oh, okay.
I think we have covered most the questions asked by the participant. Karthik, is there anything else you want to cover before wrap up?
Sorry, come again.
So, you want to convey any message to the participants before wrap up the session?
I think the whole purpose of my presentation, keeping it more, showing it as a personal journey, was to put myself the same shoes how I was during the engineering time, right? And probably this is the most heartfelt presentation I have made, more unbiased and like more honest. I had my own questions in my mind. I always used to think that like whom to reach out to satisfy my creative side as well as engineering side, and I found my own answers. Like, but now I think now we live in a world it's a lot more connected than before. Please reach out to people, and you are not the only person in the world who will be thinking in a certain way. So always there will be people who have done that and achieved that. So always reach out and then find out your answers.
So, okay, it's a time to conclude our event. Thank you very much, Karthik, for spending your valuable time in your busy schedule. Karthik is a proud alumni of JI Engineering College. He has passed out in the year 2005 from Computer Science and Engineering Department. I hope everyone enjoyed the session. There were more number of job prospects in the user experience design discipline. So contact Mr. Karthik. Definitely, he will help you out. Meanwhile, visit his personal website called panastro.com, panastro.com. He has written a lot about his work, through which you will get kind of inspiration. Thank you very much, Karthik, for the highly knowledgeable session. On behalf of JIA Group of Institutions and all participants, thank you once again, Karthik. At this moment, I place my sincere thanks to our college management. My thanks to our chairman, sir, Professor J. Kanagaraj, our secretary, ma'am, Mrs. K. Vijay Kumari, our vice chairman, Engineer K. Navaraj, our joint secretary, ma'am, Dr. K. Dina, our principal, Dr. K. Samithurai, and all my colleagues who rendered their support for conducting this webinar series. Great, thank you everyone. We appreciate you being here. Next schedule is on Friday, 3/7/2020 at 6 p.m. The topic is enterprise transformation, becoming a product-driven organization. The speaker is Ms. Aparna Kumar. She's an enterprise architect from Milestone Technologies Inc., USA. I request everyone to join for this webinar. Thank you for your active participation. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next on Friday at 6 p.m. Thank you, Anandal. Thank you, God.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.